And we're going to be going over major child development theories and their applications with children birth to 36 months. So the first theory is behaviorist theory, and this basically suggests that behaviors are learned through interactions with the environment. Key elements are classical conditioning, which is learning through association, essentially, operant conditioning, which is learning through consequences, observable behavior, which is focusing on measurable and observable actions rather than internal. So the main theorist for this one would be Ivan Pavlov, and his notable contribution was Pavlov's dogs, which demonstrated that animals can learn to associate stimuli with responses through repeated pairings. B.F. Skinner introduced operant conditioning, which focused on how consequences shape behavior, and his notable contribution was the Skinner box, where animals learn to associate actions with rewards or punishments. Key terms for this are the stimulus, which is the event or situation that creates the response. The response is a behavior from the stimulus. Reinforcement is consequences that increase likelihood of the behavior reoccurring, and punishment is the consequence that decreases the likelihood of the behavior reoccurring. Conditioning is the process of learning associations between behaviors and consequences. Constructivist theory suggests that children construct knowledge through experiences and interactions with the world. So key elements for these are schemas, which are mental structures and how we organize knowledge. Assimilation is putting new information into the schemas, and then accommodation is modifying this schema to put in new information. So the main theorist for this is Jean Piaget. He is known for cognitive development, which outlines how children's thinking evolved in stages. So the stages are sensory motor, which is from birth to 2, and that's where infants learn through sensory experiences. Pre-operational 2 to 7, children begin to use symbols and language. Concrete operational 7 to 11 develop logical thinking skills, but they still rely on concrete examples and experiences and not really abstract concepts. Formal operational is 12 and above, and that's when they start to think abstractly and hypothetically. Egocentrism is very big in pre-operational, which is when the child's inability to see a situation from another person's point of view. This does not mean that children are selfish. That's a different take. Object permanence is understanding that objects continue to exist even when they cannot be seen. Ecological theory emphasizes the multiple environment systems that interact, that influence a child's development. So these include the microsystem, which is family and school, mesosystem, which is interactions between the microsystem, like relationships between family and teachers, and then the exosystem, external environments that indirectly influence development, such as parents' workplace. So the main theorist for this is Yuri Bronfenbrenner, and he introduced the ecological systems theory, which you can see right here. So this model reshaped the understanding of various contexts affecting human development, and this takes into account the different environments. So microsystem, which is the immediate environment, so that's like your family. The mesosystem, which is connection between different parts, so how school and home interact, for example. Ecosystem is the larger social systems that affect the child indirectly, so like the parents' jobs. Chronosystem is the dimension of time reflecting changes and continuity over the life course. And then the macro system, which is cultural and societal norms that impact development. Maturational theory is the development of developmental norms and the concept of readiness and learning. So key elements are fixed development sequences, which is children progress through stages in a predetermined order. Biological timetable is development unfold occurring to innate schedule. And then minimal environmental influences, which is environment plays a secondary role to biology in development. So the main theorist for this is Arnold Gisel, and he is a psychologist and pediatrician who studied child development, focusing on the biological processes. So this has a heavy focus on biology. So Gissel's work led to a development of developmental norms and the concept of readiness and learning. Key terms in this are maturation, which is the process of development governed by genetic factors, developmental norms, average ages at which development milestones are reached, and then readiness, which is the optimal period when a child is prepared to acquire new skills. So a common example of this would be how you go from crawling to walking. Those are different stages. Um, and each child follows the same stage, but their pace varies due to genetic differences. Social cultural theory is how children learn and develop their interactions with with peers, parents, teachers, etc. Culture and language play a crucial role in shaping cognitive development. So key elements are zone of proximal development, which is ZPD, the difference between a child can do independently and what they can achieve with guidance. Scaffolding is support provided by caregivers or teachers to help a child learn a new skill until they can do it on their own. And then role of language. The language is the primary tool for thought and learning, allowing kids to communicate, think, and problem solve. So the main theorist for this is Lev Vygotsky, and he focused on social interactions, on how culture shapes cognitive development, and his work emphasized that kids learn best through social interaction. He introduced CPD and scaffolding, which has a significant influence on education. CPD is essentially the sweet spot where a child can almost do something on their own, but they still need help. Scaffolding is, again, the support given to help a child learn until they can do it on their own. More knowledgeable other is just a person or an older child, an adult, who helps teach the new skills. Private speech is when kids talk to themselves to help solve problems. And then cultural tools are things like language and traditions that shape how a child learns. Attachment theory is babies need a strong emotional bond with the caregiver to feel safe and develop properly. So key elements are secure base, so strong attachment. Separation anxiety is when babies get upset when separated from the caregiver, and attachment styles. This is how the child bonds with the caregiver, and this affects future relationships. The main theorists for these are John Bowlby. He developed the stages of attachment. So this is pre-attachment, indiscriminate attachment, discriminate attachment, and then multiple attachments. And he believes early relationships shape how people connect with others later in life. Mary Ainsworth further developed this Bowlby's theory through the famous experiment called Strange Situation, in which she was able to identify different attachment styles: secure, insecure, avoidant, and insecure, ambivalent. Secure is when the child feels safe and trusts the caregiver. Insecure, avoidant is when the child is indifferent to the caregiver's presence and avoids them in return. And then insecure, ambivalent is when the child is anxious before separation and shows resistance to caregiver when they return. Psychoanalytical theory, Freud. Freud said children can go through sexual stages where different parts of the body are the focus of pleasure and learning, and then key elements are id, ego, superego, which are the three parts of personality that control desire, logical, and morals. Psychosexual is the different stages where children focus on different needs, and then he believed that childhood events shape personality. So he is known as the father of psychoanalysis, and he believed childhood experiences shape behavior and personality. So the oral stage is when babies explore through their mouths. Anal stage is focusing on potty training. The phallic stage is when boys are attached to their mother and girls are attached to their father. Latency are when children spend more time and interact mostly with the same sex. And then genital stage is when individuals are attracted to opposite sex peers. Erickson believed that people go through 8 different life stages, each with a challenge to help them grow. And this is based heavily on crisis and resolution. Each stage has a challenge, and how it's handled shapes your personality. So he created the psychosocial stages, showing how social experiences shape personality. So from birth to 1, the challenge is trust versus mistrust, which is babies feel safe if needs are met. If not, they learn to fear. From 1 to 2, autonomy versus shame. Toddlers want to do things alone but may feel shame if not allowed. 3 to 6, initiative versus guilt. Kids will start to make choices but may feel guilty if discouraged. 6 to 12, kids work hard to succeed but may feel like failures if they struggle. 12 to 18, identity versus role confusion. Teens figure out who they are or they feel lost. 18 to 40, adults build relationships where they feel lonely. 40 to 65, generativity versus stagnation. Adults give back to others or feel stuck. And then 65 older adults feel proud of life or regret.